Hi everyone, and welcome to the Sagittarius February 2022 mid-month love reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot, a place for you to better connect with and illuminate your own personal spiritual importance. So, Sagittarius, we are focusing on love this month for the mid-month reading since Valentine's Day is just around the corner. And I've enjoyed doing these readings so much that I think I'm going to start incorporating this type of reading starting in March as part of my regular lineup here. So we're going to pull a card to start to take a look at what Spirit is asking you to engage with in the theme of love. So my mid-month readings are here to specifically focus on engaging your authentic self with your external environment. Additionally, all my readings are here to help you take a look at a challenge or challenges that you're currently experiencing and to help you answer that question of why am I being asked to face and overcome this challenge? And this is also, you can better understand the meaning behind your personal spiritual growth, path, and purpose so that you can unlock something about yourself that is meant to be of service to the greater collective experience. All right, so Sagittarius, we have forgiving and learning. It says, as you release and heal the past, you experience more love in your present moment. Now, it's interesting, as I was stepping into your energy, Sagittarius, I did get this feeling of at some point recently, you have been kind of in almost like this, I don't know, tumultuous energetic state where you've been maybe going through a grieving process or where you felt a little dissatisfied, and your February illumination reading really spoke to needing to kind of get out of that energy of I'm just not happy with what's going on in my life. And there is something that came through just now around perhaps a mother figure or some type of supporting figure in your life that is really wanting to be there to kind of hold you and support you, but maybe this person has either passed on or it's somebody that maybe you don't have a close relationship to now, but you once did. And there's something around releasing and healing the energy around that, and also releasing and healing any energy that's related to possibly a person in your life that you either hold resentment around or that, you know, it's interesting how the element of forgiveness can be so freeing. This is something actually I brought up in Libra's reading because it also came up to the kind of forefront. That forgiveness, it not only allows us to release a specific emotional tie or perspective or viewpoint on something that's happened in the past, including a relationship. It also frees up the other person to do the same. So you really are allowing you're allowing the connection to free itself. What does that mean? That means that when we can't get to that place of forgiveness, we get stuck in that kind of moment of time where we were hurt, and we replay it and we replay it and we replay it. And this can be across the board. This could be pertaining to kind of what came in for me, either a parental figure or somebody who had been a supportive, played a supportive role in your life, or this could even be around a boss. This could be around a significant romantic partnership. It doesn't matter where this energy is coming from, but there's something around when we can't forgive, we literally get stuck in that moment of when we were hurt, or when somebody else was hurt that then in turn hurt us. And we replay that and we replay it and we replay it. And instead of allowing ourselves to have the beauty of growth, allowing us to take a look back on a past event with a fresh perspective and allowing us to understand and see it in a different way. When we don't forgive, we're not allowing ourselves to be able to do that. So we're blocking ourselves off from reviewing and actually altering the past a little bit for ourselves to allow us to pull something forward so that we can continue to grow. We can continue to learn from what's happened in the past. And when we do forgive, we allow ourselves to go back and see that whole experience from a different perspective. We allow that emotional kind of stuck energy, that trauma, to dissipate. And that's when oftentimes we can then look back and see the gem or the jewel or the hidden blessing in something that had happened in the past. Additionally, it allows you then to clear the way forward so that you can allow yourself to move in the present moment, look forward to the future with a new, fresh, and optimistic perspective because you've released that emotional tie. It's almost like when we can't forgive and we can't come to a place of like learning from our past mistakes, those emotional points where we get stuck turn into almost like anchors where we keep trying to move forward into this future, this beautiful potential that is waiting for us, but we're held back. And when we forgive both ourselves and the other person, we allow those emotionally stuck anchors to evaporate and dissipate, and we pull back that emotional energy into the present moment and allow ourselves to actually, in this present moment, change how we feel about what happened then. And you can transmute that into something positive and beneficial and allow yourself to look forward with that feeling, with that emotional tie now to, I've gotten through that. Look how incredibly strong I am. Look at what I'm capable of. Additionally, you can even look back on a person that perhaps you were emotionally having an issue with, and to look back at them and say, you know, they were only doing the best that they could do in that time. And you allow them to also regain a little bit of their emotional power back. It's an interesting thing, the realm of emotions and the realm of our kind of spiritual attachment and our spiritual experience through our emotional body. I think actually as I'm watching the Winter Olympics, I am really understanding that. I don't know how many of you have watched them, but I can say that after watching the Summer Olympics with Simone Biles having an emotional kind of breakdown and realizing that she had to honor the emotional aspect of her experience. And then now with, I think her name is Michaela Schifrin, going through something very similar where she is going through an emotional, tumultuous point that you realize you have to deal with the emotional core. We can't just run from it. We can't just try to physically push through or physically leave something behind without emotionally diving in and really allowing our spiritual selves to understand why we're having to go through that emotional change or trauma or challenge. Because it's meant to open and unlock something about ourselves. It's meant to also allow us to strengthen that bond to the spiritual aspect of our experience through awareness of our emotional body and awareness of what we need and how we're growing on that plane. So there's something here around really diving deep through the energy of love to forgive and release and heal something from the past so that you bring forward your emotional lessons to now, so that you can step forward into utilizing those emotions from a place of personal empowerment instead of kind of having them kind of sit back here as a dead weight or an anchor, not allowing you to move forward into the future. All right. So Sagittarius, this is actually a really powerful reading for you. Again, a little different. I feel like every one of the readings this month has been really interesting around the energy of love. Each sign very different. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull a card around the energy of curiosity. So we're going to be taking a look at what Spirit would like you to be curious about in love for the month of February. And curiosity allows us to open ourselves back up to being curious about what we don't know. So we have back to what you love, reevaluate your desires. Number 3, which is the number of divinity for me. Beautiful. So I think this is something where I like how it says reevaluate your desires. I get this strong feeling that there's something around what you've currently been focused on and kind of what you've been working forward to up to this point, that it might have been affected by what has happened in the past. Or that, now this could look like you experienced some type of emotional trauma in the past, and so everything you've done to this up to this point was to avoid experiencing that emotional trauma again, or to avoid interacting with that individual, or to avoid having to maybe face that part of yourself again. So this could look like something happened in maybe a work aspect and you've been trying to not put yourself back in that same work situation again. Or this could be where you maybe watched two parental figures hurt each other, so you've tried to maybe not get into an intimate romantic partnership because you didn't want to play out what you saw happen with your parents. It can play out in a variety of different ways, but there's something about when it says back to what you love, reevaluate your desires. This is calling that energy back to the present. In the present moment, through tapping into your emotions, what do you need? What do you desire? What do you love? And not based off of the hurts in the past. You know, when we try to create forward movement based on what we're trying to avoid, often we will bring in more of that instead of more of what we're trying to move towards. So it's a change in perspective of seeing now, okay, maybe I don't want to get into the same partnership or relationship patterns that I watched my parents go through. But instead of saying, I don't want a partner who does X, Y, and Z, instead you transform that and you say, I want a partner who is going to create the ABC in a committed partnership. And so instead you're looking for the person who will fulfill and elevate your experience of love instead of trying to avoid the negative. And it just allows us to keep the positive aspects in mind instead of rehashing and focusing on the negative aspects. And there's something about this coming through, Sagittarius, that I think is really going to help you kind of clear the road to see your path again clearly, to realize it's time to start to move forward. It's time to, but with a fresh perspective of this is your path. And it's based on what you need and what you desire. So what is that? Be curious about what that is now. Be curious about what is kind of around the curve, because what Spirit's asking you to do is to face this so that you're ready for what's around that next bend, that you're ready to be optimistically looking for opportunities that are going to be in alignment with you. Because if you're not in that place, often we will miss those opportunities. We will miss that potential for something that could ultimately be fulfilling for us. Okay, so Sagittarius, I'm going to go ahead now and we're going to pull a card for the concept of courage. And this is what Spirit would like you to have where Spirit would like you to have the courage to take action in the energy of love. All right, so we have 3 cards that just flew out here. We have be willing to express love. It says express love to receive love, number 6, which actually is the number associated with love in numerology. We have ask for help. It says, what do you really need? Be willing to accept support, number 14, which breaks down to the number 5. For me, this is the 14 number represents being able to harness change from a positive perspective, in a positive, supportive way. And it says, express love through gifts. A small token of love can convey great appreciation. Number 19, breaking down to a 10, further breaking down to a 1. So there's an endings and beginnings there with that number. So we're thinking of having the courage to take action. There's a lot of action happening here. So Spirit's really asking you this month to take action through love. That we have to be willing to express love to receive love. And that is such a truism, because love is a two-way open channel. We need to give love as much as we are open to receiving love. And it's very hard to receive love when we've cut ourselves off from giving love, because then the love can't come in because we've cut ourselves off. So I get the strong feeling that it's time to step into that energy, to really embrace that, to push forward, and to put yourself in a slightly vulnerable place, to put yourself out there, to express, not even just express to who you love, but express what you love. And when it says ask for help, what do you really need? Be willing to accept support. It's interesting about reevaluate your desires and what do you really need. That question is coming through here now. What is it at this point that you need for yourself in order to allow for your desires at this point, for your future self to come in? And sometimes we do have to ask for help. Sometimes that's when we do have to seek a counselor, or we have to speak to a really good trusted friend, and we need to kind of lay out what we're dealing with so that we can maybe get an outside perspective to help us. This could also be where you are recognizing what you need, you're recognizing the changes that need to be made, but you're in a place of, well, where do I even start? Sometimes I always use The Wizard of Oz as a example or a reference, because it's one of my favorite movies. I just find the theme really interesting, that somebody gets to go on this kind of adventure to find themselves, and they realize at the end that the power they've always held. But there is a beautiful reminder that Dorothy doesn't go down her yellow brick road alone. She brings people with her who help her on her quest, of self-discovery and illumination. And I get that feeling a little bit, Sagittarius, that it's time for you to kind of lean into that, to allow some, as you're turning around and starting to walk back down your yellow brick road again, that it's time to see who are those cast of characters who are going to be there with you, who are going to help you to stay true to walking now towards your new goal. And then we have express love through gifts. It says a small token of love can convey great appreciation. And I love this. There's something around, again, the ending and beginning in the number 19 that's coming through, that sometimes, especially if, let's say, we're renewing a relationship with somebody, maybe you're forgiving someone and you're actually engaging with that relationship with that person that maybe you had a slightly traumatic emotional experience with. This is where sometimes just that little small token of reaching out, and it could be something as simple as literally you text that person, or you send them a Facebook Messenger chat or something like that, where you just say, I've been thinking about you, and I'm sorry for what has happened in the past. And it can be something as small as that, but how that opens us up to new potential, and again, draws your emotional power back to yourself, that you own some part of the responsibility of what happened in the past. And you also open up for you now to engage in a totally different way with that individual or with that experience. You allow that energy to be transmuted and changed as you move forward. You can actually, through choosing to move forward, strangely enough, transmute and change the past. And it's an interesting thing. And I have my own ideas and theories around the fluid nature of time. But there is this beautiful feeling of being able to repair the past through looking towards the future. And I really think that's something, that's coming through strongly here. I've actually had to do this in my life. There was a point in my life, actually when Facebook first started, which is so interesting. This is such a long time ago. I actually utilized it to connect with what it was initially intended to do, which was connect with a person that I had known very well in college. And we had kind of left on bad terms. It was kind of a bad roommate experience. And I reached out to that person through Facebook just to say, you know, thinking about you, I apologize for the way things ended. And, you know, I really hope we can, you know, kind of repair this relationship. And I was able to bring that person back into my life. And that person is still a great friend of mine to this point. And it was just a small token, a small reach out, but it allowed me to, instead of me sitting forever with this tie to my college roommate experience that was negative, I can now look back and say, oh, I can learn about maybe the type of person I'm meant to live with and the type of person I'm not. But it wasn't that person's fault that we had a falling out. It was a growth period, a lesson in time for us to both learn something from. All right, so Sagittarius, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a card for the concept of contemplation, where we're going to see where Spirit would like you to reflect on the energy of love for the month of February, kind of this underlying theme. So if the overarching theme is forgiveness and learning and releasing the past, this will be an underlying theme to help kind of support that. What does Sagittarius need to know about where they need to reflect on love this month? I feel like this is the card. All right. Spiritual connection. It says a relationship has a connection that goes beyond this lifetime. Number 27 breaking down to a number 9, which is a really beautiful number. It's a number of the ending of a cycle, learning all of the lessons of a cycle and moving forward into the new. I do feel that there is something here, again, for some of you, that this, what you're releasing, what you're forgiving, is something tied to a person that, now, if you don't believe, let's say, in past lives, that there is something that when we say a relationship has a connection that goes beyond this lifetime, this could actually be more along the lines of clearing out the energy so that the lessons learned from your relationship actually do go beyond and outside of just your personal timeline, meaning that in repairing this relationship, you are able to possibly bring a person from your past into maybe your child's experience, and your child gets a chance to carry forward a relationship with somebody past when you exit this lifetime. Or the lesson that you learned, you get to pass on to somebody else in your experience. And that's how you keep the connection between you and this person from the past alive. You give what happened in the past meaning, significance, and you allow that energy to beautifully move forward into the future. That's how we get to, as a collective experience, continually grow and learn. It's through shared wisdom. And I really feel that that is the message for you guys, Sagittarius. There's something about a shared wisdom, something about the lesson that you're learning here that's meant to truly be of service in the sharing of it, and the recognizing of how powerful, again, it is when we allow ourselves to learn from the past, how powerful that is, because we then allow not only ourselves to bring that wisdom forward, we allow others to learn from that as well. There is something about that here. All right, so Sagittarius, I'm going to go ahead and pull some clarifier cards just to get an additional message to come through for those of you that need to hear it. I'm going to see here, what would I like to clarify? I'm going to clarify back to what you love and the spiritual connection. So let's see about, reevaluating your desires. What's an extra message around reevaluating your desires? Okay, so we have 4 cards. We have 3 of Cups, 2 of Cups, 7 of Wands, and 6 of Swords. Okay, so there is something around connections to either a social group or to just others in your life who are supportive, and getting back to, with the Seven of Wands and the Six of Swords, there is something here around really understanding what you want to defend, where you want to take action. And, it's interesting because I'm seeing these two cards together, and there's an element of moving on from defensiveness. That maybe you've been defending some aspect of your life and defending something, and it's time to move on from that. The beauty of the Six of Swords is that we allow ourselves to transcend through our perspective, through our thoughts, and being able to look back on the past to see where maybe we can now, again, bring that fresh perspective to say, oh, okay, I see it from this way now. I can move on from that. And this is a very liberating, powerful energy. This is the energy that allows us to literally, through a change in perspective, transcend limitations that we think we are trapped by in the present. And then we have the Three of Cups and the Two of Cups. So this is really about taking a look at partnerships, about what you bring to partnerships, and your relationship to your social group, or to kind of your tribe, people who would support you here. There's something around, and I'm kind of getting this feeling of going from the Three of Cups to the Two of Cups, that there is something around maybe perhaps maybe you removed somebody from your experience, and it's time now to possibly reach back out to that person, somebody that had been removed, or to step into the energy of equal footing at this point. That maybe there had been a misbalance of power or kind of a misuse. This could actually be around somebody who might have had an alcohol or drug abuse problem, and it's time to kind of reach out to that person possibly. But there is something around really kind of moving on from the place of defensiveness, and it's time to move forward and reconnect, understand the value of what's in your cup, understand the value too of what you bring to situations and what you would like to celebrate with others. So there's kind of a few different messages in there for you guys. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to pull a card here for spiritual connection. So there's something about fact-finding with the Page of Swords. That can be also about where we start to kind of take a look at trying to gain context around our personal truth. And there is an element of just gaining context in general, looking back through the lens of your personal truth and trying to understand the context of something that's happened. Okay, yes. So there's definitely trying to kind of understand a point where you were deeply hurt. The Ten of Swords is when we feel we're at our lowest point, where we feel like we've been not only stabbed in the back, but it's kind of like that feeling of overkill. Like, I can't possibly get any lower than this point. And there's something here around seeing that in a new light, gaining context for a moment where you felt like this in the past. I just want to get a couple clarifiers for the Ten of Swords here. What does Sagittarius need to know about the Ten of Swords? Actually, no, I'm going to change that. I'm going to see, you already know what you went through. Let's get some information for the Page of Swords. Oh, interesting. So the Three of Cups comes up again. Let's get a Page of Swords coming in. So there's something around, okay, then you have Queen of Swords, the Hierophant, and the Eight of Wands. All right. So there is something around trying to gain context. I think it's interesting that you might have been hurt by a social group. You might have maybe felt ostracized, or that you had to defend yourself in a social group. Maybe you felt like you weren't on equal footing, or you weren't, and this can extend to even, a family group or something along those lines. This can also indicate a third party. So it could have been that somebody cheated on somebody else, and you're trying to gain context as to kind of what happened. How did that happen? How did that get me to this point? Because now with the Queen of Swords, the Hierophant, and the Eight of Wands, there's something here around understanding and telling your truth, seeing the truth around the rules you've followed, the rules you've held yourself accountable to, and something around movement moving forward, a communication around this. So there is something around speaking to, for some of you, this could actually be speaking about a committed partnership, a marriage, and reaching out. So this could be around reaching out and repairing a relationship that has been injured by a third party, where there was cheating involved. This could also be reaching out and this could actually even be speaking about what you've gone through. So there is a little bit of this kind of sharing of your experience coming through. And I do feel with the Queen of Swords, so the Queen of Swords is someone who understands what she's gone through. She understands what she's capable of, and she's able to share her story in an empowering way. And she holds her hand up and invites others to do the same. So it's actually a card that really kind of embodies this element of having that open energetic portal of, this is my story, and you can tell yours. The Hierophant is one where these are like kind of the rules and restrictions and regulations and expectations of our current society. This would look like what the government puts in place, the laws we have to follow. This can be the religious structures that we're forced, or not forced, but that we choose to follow. This could also be our own internal rules that we hold ourselves accountable to. And there's something around communicating about that, communicating about the rules, or communicating about a marriage, or communicating about something that you felt you had to work within or were kind of held back by. And I think you're able to see the truth around that now. Now, where the Queen of Swords can become more of a negative energy is when she comes from that place of, instead of saying, I've gone through this issue, and this is what I've learned, and this is how much more empowered I am because of that, she'll come from a place of kind of absolutism of, well, I went through a bad relationship, so all relationships are bad. Or I had a bad experience in this field of work, so this field of work is terrible and nobody should get into it. And that can be a little the negative side of when we kind of get stuck in that energy and we apply our experience to everything, instead of realizing, no, we have our unique experiences and we get to learn we have each our own specific, special, unique, applied meaning to that experience. But that's not meant to color everything forward. But there is something to be said here. And I do get a feeling a little bit that for some of you, there is something around a third party that came in a past relationship and a marriage possibly. And that now there's communication that's going to kind of open that up. There's also something, if that's not the case, something around a social circle that you maybe you felt that you weren't appreciated, that there was kind of an unequal aspect to that you might have been hurt in that. Now again, this could be familial as well, that maybe you felt like you weren't part of a family structure, something along those lines. And now you're coming out and being able to speak the truth of kind of what you were held back by, and being able to go out and communicate that, taking action from that place to say, these are the rules, these are the things I stand for now, and I can kind of see where they possibly have helped me, or I can also see possibly where I don't have to hold myself accountable to those anymore, and I can move forward. All right, Sagittarius, I hope this has been a illuminating reading for you. There is something to be said very much so around this, empowering place of really learning those lessons from the past, releasing the tie the past has to you, and allowing yourself to really step fully into this power of forward momentum. All right. If you would like to illuminate your own personal spiritual importance and to see how it can be of service to yourself and others, you can click on the link in the description box below to book a personal reading or a one-on-one coaching session. If you would like to have a reading about love, you can just write that in the notes section. And of course, I will focus on that for you. Otherwise, I will be releasing my March illumination reading release dates next week. And if I don't see you until then, Sagittarius, have a wonderfully loving February. Bye.